Hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to Be with Mike G, the show of life, the show of Miami, the show of Pesce, show of vodka, single malt whiskeys, brandies of the pear and raspberry variety. Today's guest is the amazing Paul Skiera of St. George Spirits. He travels the United States going to the best and most amazing cities like Austin, Texas, spreading the gospel of St. George Spirits. We talk about the whole philosophy behind St. George. We talk about the sale and purchase and kind of reacquisition of St. George. We talk about Paul's very illustrious career in the hospitality industry, and I get to sip some of that amazing apple brandy, among other things. Got to tell you that chili vodka from St. George is something to die for. It has the great, super amazing hot essence of peppers that only a chili head like myself could enjoy. So I hope you guys enjoy this chat with the space cowboy himself, Mr. Paul Skiera.
A lot of what we do is either about the terroir where we're coming from,
right,
or the fruit that we're working with. We don't distill really to please anybody. We distill to make spirits that we like to drink, and then that comes across that people fall in love with it. So if you take the first item we've ever distilled over 30 years ago, it was a pear eau de vie.
Uh-huh.
And today it's bottled as pear brandy. We did a label change a few years ago, more for the American public to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been distilling pears for 30 plus years. It's one of our flagship items. It takes 30 pounds of pears to make one bottle, 750 ml of
30
pear
pounds. What's the proof on the pear brandy?
80 proof.
80. So we're talking 40% alcohol that you have to make. So 40 pounds. So you get 1% alcohol per pear, roughly. Right?
Roughly.
That's insane.
Yeah, so you look at it in a different world. You take, after we crush the fruit in its entirety, and then we ferment it, we'll end up with about 65 pounds of mash. That's distillable. And from there, after distilling, you come up with about 3 gallons of spirit.
Which is nothing.
Excuse me. Yeah, it's a little higher proof.
Yeah,
but
still, even when you proof it down, it's not that much.
Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, that's the art of distillation.
So why? So let's talk about it from an economic standpoint. Then, why would you do? And now, passion projects, I get it. And there's no one that can tell you no at that point.
Yeah.
But so why do it?
Well, there is profit still in it.
Sure.
But it's that in particular is a distillation of love.
Yeah.
We don't want to put out a product that's inferior. And when you smell and open our pear brandy, it's just ripe of pear.
Yeah. It's crisp and just punchy and maybe slightly acidic, and there's all these wonderful.
And when you're tasting our pear brandy or our raspberry brandy, you can taste the entire fruit.
Yeah.
We don't go through it with a fine tooth comb. We leave a little bit of the stems in, some of the leaves, the skins are on there. So when you taste it, and smell it, you're getting the entire pear.
Connected to the whole fruit.
Yep.
And that is, we were talking about it briefly, we won't touch on it too much, but that's one of the appeals to agave and mezcal, is that you get the life of the plant and you get the terroir, from the dirt all the way to the stem. And
that's true. We make 3 different gins.
Mm-hmm. The Botanivore, right?
Botanivore.
The terroir.
And dry rye.
Dry rye. Yeah.
When you spoke of terroir, our terroir is Mount Tam in Northern California.
Mm-hmm.
And when you open our gin, it smells no different than if you were walking through the hillside of Mount Tam.
Amazing.
There's Douglas fir in there. There's coastal sage. There's bay laurel. And that gin, if you put 20 gins in front of anybody at St. George, we would all know immediately.
Just immediately. That was muscle memory.
Just right there.
So that sounds like a good invitation, Paul, to take me up there. So
anytime you want to go to it, anytime. It's a cool story. The history of terroir is Lance was at a soccer game of one of his children, and he was sitting there, and he's like smelling the surrounding area, and he's like, I need to make a gin that smells just like this.
Right.
And the story goes that he went back the next day with his backpack, and he stripped off some of the pine needles from the Douglas fir tree, and then coastal sage and bay laurel. What's unique about that gin is we actually distill it's 3 different distillates. The Douglas fir gets distilled by itself.
So it's a blend of distillates, a single. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
So we end up with a Douglas fir distillate.
Yeah.
And then we end up with a coastal sage and bay laurel distillate, and then finally the more traditional gin botanicals.
Yeah.
And then they blend all 3 of them.
No kidding.
Can you imagine that? 3 different distillates to make 1 bottle of gin.
3 esoteric distillates. That's amazing, though. I mean, there's not a lot of people that do such what is a laser focused. Hendrix is one that comes to mind, right? You got the rose and the cucumber, but that's an amazing process. And thinking of the ratios and all of those distillates and everything to just get the right punch.
Yeah.
But it harkens me back to mountains, man. Because we're in Texas, we're so far removed from being able to smell green.
Yeah.
Green.
Well, the one thing too is just California as a whole. I mean, the bounty of botanicals and fruit and food and just wine. It just so rich. You gotta love it. It's rich in all of that. And that's what led the original owner, York Ruff, who's still with us and is retired, but he came over from Germany as a son of distillers to study law.
Oh, really?
And he fell in love with all the bounty that California had, and he just started distilling.
Diverse people, diverse produce, diverse herbs. I mean, you guys are lucky over there. Yeah. Besides the drought, I think everything's going pretty good.
Well, California's got its time. I get to go out there, luckily, about once or twice a year to play around in the distillery and do some sales meetings. But for the most part, they keep me in these warmer states. I'm all right with that.
You're fine with Miami, right? All right, we'll send you to Dallas, Fort Worth.
Dallas was not good yesterday. It was cold and miserable. It
was cold here today, too, for some reason in the morning.
The sun was shining today, and it was nice. But yesterday, it was 40 degrees and rainy all day, so I could not wait to get out of Dallas.
Get back to Naples, yeah.
Yep. That'll be tomorrow.
So where did you I love how our careers, how this zeitgeist of the cocktail community, how we come together, and I get to talk to these guys at like this exact moment, and we're very privileged to be in this industry at this time. Things are very, very, it's tectonic shifts in the way that the business is and the dynamic of it. Big brands maybe are being a little bit decentralized, which is great, but so where do you come from? Are you from the West Coast? Are you from Florida? Where did you grow up? You talked about Michigan as well, right?
Well, I grew up in Michigan.
Yeah.
I grew up in a small town, Manistee, right on Lake Michigan. And
cold, talking about cold.
Cold. Yeah, I could, as a kid, you don't really pay attention to it because you don't know any better.
Well, your mom's having to warm the car up, right? Yep. I remember those days where I go to school and we sit there 20 minutes.
When we had snowstorms because we get lake effect, toward the middle of the winter, you had snowdrifts on each side of your driveway that were 6-7 feet tall.
Wow.
So on a given big snowstorm, you would literally lose your cars. They would be buried in. We had so many school days, off, and there was many days you couldn't get your car out for 3 or 4 days. So you'd have to, walk to the grocery store, or, if you had a snowmobile, you at least get out that way. But
that would be good. Did you ever have a snowmobile?
Oh yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah. I
wish I did.
My dad was cheap though, so the one that we had didn't go very fast.
It was pulled by reindeers and wolves and stuff.
I think it would have went faster if it was reindeers. But
so your parents both, were they from Michigan as well? Or did they kind of come?
Yeah, they're from Michigan. I had a very traditional upbringing, great parents, and I was off to school, and I chose to go to hospitality school.
Yeah,
Davenport University.
In high school, we had that program as well.
I actually went for college, so
cool.
I have a associate's degree with a degree in hospitality, which really doesn't mean much. I could have went to
something.
I got something. It means I could study for 2 years. And I made it through. But,
I can pay money for something.
I did the whole restaurant thing for quite a while.
Yeah.
From the Amway Grand Plaza Hotel in Michigan, where I was a beverage manager at a young age. Mm-hmm. And then found myself on Mackinac Island, Michigan.
Mackinac Island. The macadamia nuts.
Yeah, fudge.
Jeez.
There's no cars on that island. So as a young guy, was in a position of semi-power. I had about 75 employees running it.
How old are you at this point? 18?
I turned 50.
When you were in Mackinac? Really?
No, back in those days, I was just 21. And I was
you had the mentality of a 50.
I was running 75 employees. I had we'd do 3-4 weddings a weekend.
21.
Yeah.
That's great, yeah.
I took risk. I showed up there as a bartender.
Yeah.
And within a month, I was the beverage manager. And within the next year, I was running the whole place for a year and a half.
You studied hospitality and stuff in college. Did you ever, was that the trajectory in high school? Were you thinking that that's what you wanted to do?
Yeah, after high school, I said, I'm going to go run a hotel or a restaurant or own one day. And it was a blast. I mean, especially up there. I mean, I had...
Oh, it's beautiful. That's where my parents got engaged, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It was awesome. I mean, it's a neat town because you don't have to worry about drinking and driving. You work hard, you play harder.
Sure. Pass out in a beautiful lawn.
Yeah, many people pass out on lawns. Yep. I remember one night I had the police banging on my door. So I was one of the lucky workers because I actually had a 2-room suite in the hotel.
Oh, wow.
But most of the kids that come up to be waiters or bartenders, it's like they share a bunk room or something,
Sure.
So I'm getting beat up by the cops a little bit. They hit me on the head and they're like,
what were the circumstances there?
There might have been a bike missing or something.
I see. Okay. Which is a much lesser crime. Whereas lesser. Here,
But there was no evidence, so it just went off on its side. And I said, you know what? I think my final line was, I'm too tired and drunk to speak to you guys, but and I need to be up at 6:30 to open up for breakfast.
You're destined to you got to work. You got to open the spot up.
Yep. So it was a great time. We had we could leave in the winters.
Yeah.
So I went to Phoenix and
we're in Phoenix.
It was it was Glendale actually before Glendale was much where it was. Worked at a place called the Wigwam. Really didn't work. We spent about 3 months out there drinking beer and hanging out at the pool.
Different climate a little bit. I lived in Scottsdale.
We got the hell out of there quick. I mean, it was 110. We did a one trip to Mexico for spring break, which was too much that I can talk about on the radio. And then we were off and back to Michigan. And but that's where my passion for spirits and for wine.
What was the thinking about trends? Like, what did people, in terms of spirits, not wine, but what were people drinking back then?
Ooh, it wasn't much.
It wasn't much.
We were pouring Chablis into canisters, like Coke canisters, and running it through a gun. That was the wine. I mean, that was it. Yeah, that was, in the late 80s, there was no wine. Lambrusco was being poured, Chablis out of a gun, and cocktails were mainly martinis. And
good martinis?
No, they're really, there wasn't much for good vodka in those days.
What about good gin?
Gordon's and so forth.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
There really
it's been around so long.
There really wasn't a call for premium spirits back in those days.
Right.
That really came around. The first brand I ever worked with when I worked for for Republic National, that really was leaps and bounds above everybody else was Kettle One vodka.
Kettle One, yeah.
And it was the history of what they did. The type of what, they were making it from wheat.
Right.
Copper pot still. Nobody heard of that kind of stuff. And
they didn't care then. They care now, though.
They do care.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely. It's gone way up. The whole trend of flavored vodkas came along.
Yeah.
And with St. George, we were the producers of Hangar One vodkas.
Right.
Hangar One was distilled by St.
George. What's the word? The breadwinner for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was the major breadwinner. I mean, it was sold, and it allowed York to retire, and Lance Winters, who is now our current owner, who is just celebrating his 20th anniversary at the distillery.
Wow.
We just got the news a couple days ago. He's up for a semifinalist for James Beard. Yep. So that's
amazing.
That's huge for us.
Not a lot of people in distilling. 20 years is almost unheard of.
Yeah,
if you think about it.
I'm pretty sure York is a James Beard Award winner, so
no kidding.
He's going to pass the torch down to Lance. But
yeah.
Lance is what's taking off and really sort of redid Hangar or St. George after the sale of Hangar One. So now it's been about 4 to 5 years that he's in full ownership, and there's no stopping us right now. Our brand is
you guys got
is
a
on
lot
fire.
of good stuff. Very, very cool. So, which we'll touch on in a second. So, but what was that shift then from bar management, hospitality to and I'm assuming that it was the next step, but what was that next step? Was it into distribution, or was it something else? Did you do bar ownership at all?
Well, I think it was my third summer up toward Mackinac Island.
Yeah.
But the previous year I had come down to Naples, and
what brought you? It gets
you know what
pretty
brought me
random.
down? I'll give a shout out to the gals. There's Deborah and Sandra Orr, who own bars up on Mackinac Island.
Okay.
And they also own a bar in Naples, Florida. And this is years ago. If anybody's familiar with Naples,
when are we
Fifth
talking?
Avenue.
When are we talking?
20 years ago.
20 years ago. Okay.
Naples was a sleepy little fishing community, and now it's been just announced as one of the top dining destinations in the United States.
Really? Where about in Florida is it? Northern Florida?
We're the southernmost on the Gulf of Mexico.
Southernmost. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How close to Key West?
Depends how you go.
If you're stumbling along.
If you're flying, you're looking at about 45 minutes.
Okay.
If you're taking there's a ferry that goes, you're looking at about 4 hours.
Okay.
If you're driving, you're looking anywhere from 6 to 9, depending on the traffic. Yeah, driving sucks getting down there, so you want to try to avoid that at any
I will
time.
toboggan.
We're about 2.5 hours south of Tampa.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the most beautiful town in Florida. I mean, it's spectacular.
So you have some bar owners.
We had some bar owners down there.
The Orrs that are owning some things up in Mackinac.
So I came down to work Naples just for the season.
They said, hey, Paul.
Yeah, you should come down. Come on down. So a couple buddies and I got in a car. We ended up and we got employed, to bartend or wait tables for the season. Made some money, hung out, and actually took back off from Mackinac the next year. And I had met the lady who became my wife that winter, and she came back up and grabbed me and brought me down. And I opened a restaurant for a couple in Naples, and did that for about a year and a half.
What kind of restaurant?
They were German, but we were doing a lot of American food.
Gotcha.
I had swooped in a chef from Miami area. We're serving just better quality food than most of the people.
Cocktail program?
No cocktail program. Nope. Yeah. This was just the start of some good wines that were coming in. Yeah. Building wine by the glass. This was like I said, about 20 years ago.
Right.
Maybe 18.
It was different.
It was different. This was when the first time that I ever saw vodka flavors. And the first release of flavored vodkas were really Stoli in the old days. They had about 6 flavors that they came out. And I remember the guy named Larry Genta, who was my sales rep from Republic National, bringing it in to show me. And Larry's actually the guy when they had an opening to start adding sales reps to their fine wine division.
Larry to Republic.
Yeah, he recommended me, and I took over.
Oh, no kidding.
And just to sort of nail it down, you took a town like Naples. I had Naples and Marco Island. They gave me a route that produced $200,000 in sales, which isn't a lot of money in commission.
Sure, but what time period? In a quarter?
That's for a year.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was
either a week. Paul, you're not doing some bad.
Either the guy before me didn't do a lot of work, or really what was happening is fine wine was starting to come around a little bit. That next year, my first year, I did $1 million in sales.
Holy
so
shit.
The amount of growth that was happening, in those days.
Why do you think it grew? Was it you? Was it the?
It was a little bit of both. A lot of it was.
You're charming, aren't you?
I can sell you shit. Anything you need, I can sell you. But I really was the first guy in the area that took a personal computer and started doing drink lists and wine lists for people.
Really?
Yeah. In the old days, you would rely on your distributors to do, a little 15, 20, 30 bottle wine list.
Yeah.
But they would only do it once a year. They didn't care if you were out of stock on 3 or 4 items.
It's not seasonal
no,
for one.
Certainly not seasonal. And it's certainly, but they had you wrapped up. If they made the drink list or the wine list for an account, they had you locked up.
Sure.
And you're really, nobody, I'm dating myself, but computers were just coming in. So I had one and a printer, and I would go sell to an account, and I would say, how many wines are you out of? And they'd say, 5 or 6. I'm like, all right, I'm shipping you 5 and 6 wines, and I'll have you a wine list tomorrow. And
that's amazing.
Boom. Yeah, I was like, wow, this guy's going to do a little extra effort for us.
Have you been good with technology then?
No, I suck at it.
But
it took me 5 years to learn that you could copy and paste on a computer.
You know how much time that saves?
My daughter, she comes home from like middle school or something. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm printing this out, but I can't just use it. I have to retype it. She's
right.
Like, copy, paste. I'm like, oh.
Alt-C.
I mean, I've been doing that for wrong. Yeah, so kids are good. But no, I've never really taken over, or taken much interest in computers. Or I'm all on the street. Good enough to get through.
Good enough. And sometimes that's all that it really takes,
Yeah, exactly. Put in that extra effort and we'd make it work.
And so you have $1 million a year. This is your first year with Republic, your first year outside of behind the bar, and you're in Naples, right? Mm-hmm. So that market. So how's it going? You see, like, man, this is a good career. I want to keep doing this.
It was wonderful, and I would maybe still be selling, but I always had that bug to do better and better and better.
Right. Where does that come from? I think I know my source, but why are you how dare you be ambitious in this industry?
I've always been that way. I just always, want to be the best I can be. But, it's funny. I think at almost 50, I've come to a level where if I could retire at St. George, I pretty much
would do it.
I would do it. It's just a dream job.
Yeah.
And I grew up through the ranks. I was a district manager for Republic National, and was extremely happy. We had 2 young kids. We didn't want to move out of Naples. I could have took numerous jobs, around the country.
Yeah.
And eventually, after they graduated high school, I accepted to move to Miami. And I ran Miami to Key West, and I had about 30 employees working under me, from mixology and
both
managers.
Wine and spirits, or just
spirits? We sold both wine and spirits at that time.
Yeah.
And just Miami wasn't for me. So
tell me, so that I can just delve into Miami. Spend a day or two there.
Oh.
What drives one from Miami? Is it the Speedos? I suspect it's the Speedos.
I'm a Speedo guy, so you gotta only at music festivals. I might pull out.
I'm glad it's cold out right now. Let's put it that way.
My day in Miami is not what you see on TV.
Yeah.
I would any day or any weekend I would take off to Miami right now and spend a great weekend. You got to pack your wallet full of tons of money. It's an expensive city.
Yeah.
But my day was much different. What people don't see in the industry that we're at, people see us coming in with a bottle of spirits of St. George or a bottle of wine and tasting with the buyer and, laughing and giggling. But what people don't notice is the hours that you spend before you get to go on the street. So my morning would start early.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to drive 45 minutes north to go to the office. Spend a few hours doing emails and phone calls and so forth. And then you're expected to, to do your job if you want to be good at it, get back in the market and go see, 8, 10 accounts and shake hands, have cocktails, get home at 8 o'clock and, your wife is sitting there and not too happy with it. If we grew up in that area, and there was more friendships and all that.
It'd be different, right?
It'd be different. Yeah. But
you had to work a little bit harder.
We're slower. I had to work harder.
You're not coming in with a Speedo. You're not coming in there with a nice mustache, unless you had a mustache.
No. In Naples, our day started a little bit later and ended a little bit earlier because it's a small, tight-knit town. And I was in that position for 16 years. It never really changed over too many sales reps. Mm-hmm. In the Miami area, you change over sales reps. It's a harder market. It's dog eat dog. It's costly for sales reps to do business in some of these markets. Mm-hmm. Even today, we were riding around, the sales reps are having to put dollars and quarters in their credit cards every time they got to park. And it gets old. The cars take a lot of beating. And then, in Miami, I took 2 side swipes on the 95 going up and down. So
just doing your job.
But I had a great getaway though because I managed all the way to Key West. So
that's
at least
I was feeling bad for you, but now I know.
At least once a month I would take off down to the Keys.
It's amazing
and do some work. So the Keys saved me a little bit.
Does it? And I haven't dealt with it too much, but they're on a general sense socially in this industry, it involves a couple things. It involves being social. Of course, you're in sales. I'm somewhat in sales. Let's put it that way. You own a brand, you're in sales, right? So you've got that. You're out, you're drinking, and how difficult is? And I have my own stories, but how difficult was it maintaining? You have 2 daughters. You've got a wife. Like, does it really tire her down? Does it wear her down that you're out and drinking?
Luckily for me, and I've seen it with other other couples, but my wife's very involved in it. She actually worked as a wine supplier.
Oh, well, there
for many years. She came from the restaurant background as well.
Yeah.
So she understands it, and it's just gotten, with St. George now that I'm with them.
Yeah.
She understands the travel part.
You're a rock star. I mean,
if you
you're
follow
on tour,
me on,
man.
If you follow me on Facebook, and I've got a lot of friends, and a lot of them just giggle at me. They're like, there he goes. I just love following you on Facebook. I probably have one of the coolest routes in the industry, not just at St. George, but the entire industry. General. I mean, I get to go. I live in Florida.
Yeah.
Where everybody wants to vacation, I'm there. And when I get to go to work, I'm hitting New Orleans, Austin, Vail, Aspen, Denver, Nashville. I mean, where else? Those are all like the hottest cities going right now.
There are no B-level. That's all like varsity cities right there.
And I love it.
That's amazing.
Now, Austin being one of my tops.
It's an amazing spot. I mean, I love Austin.
I got to give up Nashville. I'm giving up Nashville next month.
Are you?
Yeah,
it's the music. It bothers me too, Paul.
It's for me, we do things a little different at St. George. We don't really take our territories based on areas.
Yeah, like regions.
Locale regions. We're doing it based on distributor networks. So my history at Republic National, I control most of the large Republic National states, Florida, Louisiana, Texas, Colorado. In Tennessee, which, again, it's just a wonderful city, Nashville, Chattanooga, and there's great cocktail culture going on, great food. A lot of top chefs are hitting Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
But it just isn't there. Republic National is not there.
From a distribution perspective.
And I have a coworker who lives in Atlanta, and she's going to take that over. And
that makes sense.
It's going to be good for us because she'll be able to get there more often.
Yeah.
It'll be good for me because I'm going to go and open up Alabama, and I know Birmingham.
Emerging markets.
Yeah, I haven't been there yet, but all my coworker and friends and peers in the business say it's smoking.
It is. There was randomly one night, I can't remember the gentleman's name or the guy he was traveling with. It's at Roosevelt Room, just at the bar. Two guys kind of come up. I don't know where they'd heard about Roosevelt Room, but of course it's a great spot, staple of Austin, great back bar. And these two guys are from Alabama. I'm like, oh shit, Alabama. Here's my preconceived notions about Alabama. But they said that it's a burgeoning cocktail scene, and they're around the university. And one of the guys owned a restaurant and a bar over there. I was like, oh shit. And he says, it is the future. It's changing the notion we have about the South, about any of these what we may say were racially aligned cities or states. It's all changing. Yeah. It's great, right?
And a lot of it's just the food culture and this cocktail culture. People are eating better.
Sure.
They're definitely drinking better. There's new products coming out every day that people want to try.
Yeah.
Not all of them are great. We're fortunate at St. George that we're rocking good spirits. I mean, you can't really open a bottle of our stuff and not be impressed with it.
Yeah. But you're right. There is certainly a wider spread problem, as Ed Hamilton says. Just because you distill it doesn't mean you have to drink it. And I was like, good point, Ed. Yeah. Duly noted. Because there's a lot of stuff coming off those stills, man. It's not good.
Yeah, every now and then you'll run across a tasting where I'm doing in a retail store, and there's, a promo girl's tasting some spirit, and I'm looking at that bottle, and I'm like, shit, I wouldn't drink that for $1 million.
What were you guys thinking?
I mean, it's got clouds in it, and it's shaking, right. And it's, so, again, not all good spirit, not all craft spirits or new spirits are good.
All spirits general. We don't even apply craft to it, which does make it a little bit more subject to being lower quality, but overall, man, just because it's in a bottle doesn't make it good, and just because it comes out of Hollywood doesn't make it quality.
Oh, 100%. I am responsible for helping build some real brands that, just weren't good, but they had great marketing.
Yeah.
They spent money in the right spots. They advertised right. But down deep, I mean, this stuff was shit. It was vodka flavored with marshmallows and
right.
like that. But that was
that one.
Yeah, that was my job, That was it. And I had the owners of the company living right in my home city. So I'm like, the pressure to sell that, and that kind of stuff too, it's also what's very difficult for some of these sales reps that are coming through this, distributor network. Mm-hmm. They're bombarded with everything, and you have to be a chameleon and sell stuff that you don't really want to sell.
Yeah.
And that's the joy of being into the supplier world. If you get into a company that you enjoy, that you believe in the products, It's so much easier to put.
Well, I mean, it's like a load off your chest, right?
Yeah. I mean, every day I walk in and bang on a door, somebody says, "Man, come on in. What do you got in that bag?"
Yeah, you got respect. You got street cred because of the portfolio stuff you guys have.
100%.
You know, I mean, it's when you think of craft, and maybe that's not the right modifier, but just to say that a multinational conglomerate, St. George is not, right? I think that's fair.
Yeah, definitely no.
Very, very good values, stayed true to the vision, and people can respect that. You guys are an indie band. You are, you know? You're a very successful indie band, but you're like, fuck you, Sony.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to get signed. You know, so that's where you're still at. And you're the biggest, probably, you know?
Yeah, well, you know, we're growing. Our tremendous growth that we have, I give, you know, major kudos to the guys at the distillery. You know, because for years, you know, St. George was doing well, and they were making, you know, Hangar One and this and that. But, man, 4 years ago when we decided to take over, and a big part of it, you know, the growth pattern is Lance was extremely smart and doesn't use a broker. He hired his own sales force. You know, he brought my boss on.
It's a great idea.
Who was a veteran in the industry, worked for some bigger suppliers, and gave him a lot of leeway, and he set up the distribution network. And over the years, now there's 5 of me. You know, we call ourselves DVPs, Divisional Vice Presidents, that run around the country. But it reminds me of a brand like Hangar One. You know, Hangar One never advertised before it was brought out. It was done by seminars, and it was done by meeting the people and shaking the hands of people. You know, we talked about Pesce earlier today. Yeah. Lance did a seminar there.
Did he? When was this?
This was before my time, so this is over 3 years ago. But Lance was in town, did a seminar, and people that I meet here in Austin still talk about it. And,
that's incredible.
What an impact it did for them, and what an impact it did for the restaurant. And, you know, when you go there, I mean, we're royalty when you walk in there. So
wonderful.
It's a great feeling.
Why? I mean, I guess I'm a jester in comparison right now. So there's 2 things. So one, I absolutely agree. If you want to promulgate a culture top down, you can't broker that shit.
No.
You can't. You want a consistent culture with all of your sales staff, people going out there and spreading the vision and the quality of the product in exactly the same way. Now, there's nuance. We all have different, I'm sure you express it in a different way. That's smart.
Yeah.
And that's how you are successful.
And it's also smart, too, is hiring some people that have some history in the industry.
Sure.
You know, and interviewing them a little bit longer and knowing that, hey, then if I hire this guy, he's going to be out there, or, you know, this person's got some good credentials from the past.
Yeah.
He's the guy I want to build my brand around and work with. And that's what I did.
It's talent management, man. You know, you guys have you got the vision, you're talented, you've got the contacts, you know.
But it's ownership's too, commitment to growth.
Sure.
You know, he's not short-sighted. We're paid well, you know. Where if you hire promo companies or you're hiring,
charge half market rate,
brand ambassador that comes and goes or doesn't have that experience, you know, you're taking. We're a slow growth plan, but if I gave you the numbers, it'd blow your mind. I mean, the growth that we've gone through is tremendous.
How do you? So it's a good question when you talk about putting a ring on it and committing to a culture of a company and investing in your sales staff versus quarter to quarter hiring what is a short-term resource. Do you think that brands, nobody in particular, that if they employ short-term resources and allow them to run such things as their Twitter feed or their Instagram feed, that in a sense, like, they're going to have a very incongruent experience for their customers?
I think so. I think you've got to really, you know, if you're the owner of the company, you've got to be, you know, as much freedom as he gives us.
Yeah.
We know what we're speaking. You know, we know what we're saying.
Sure.
We're not
coherent.
It's all. If you hear it from me, or if you hear it from Rob, who works in the Chicago market, or Kevin, or Lindy, or Jeremy.
Yeah.
We speak the same language, and that's because we get together and we talk about business. Mm-hmm. You know, we have meetings, and we are the small craft company that's bigger. We're probably the tallest midget out there.
It's a misnomer, but
you know, but we're run like a big company.
Yeah.
We demand a lot of respect from our distributors. We host big meetings with them, you know, just as any other, you know, if it's Panoma Card or
you want a seat at that table.
Yeah, and we get it, you know, and it's part of the reason we get it is because we act like we
deserve it.
Which
you do.
We do, and the bottle and the nobody's creating spirits that are as high quality of ours here in the United States. There's just, I can carry as much as 14 bags of bottles in my bag.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to pull out.
You got a very massive bag of stuff.
That's a small one. I had a
it's over. Like, which one should I should just drink all of these, I think.
We're tasting a little bit of the apple brandy right now.
Yeah. Let's transition to, what's the bottle proof on this guy?
86.
86. Oh, that's great.
So we stick the proofing on our spirits. We try to maintain a little bit higher proof. Our gins are at 90. We make a dry rye reposado gin. It's our dry rye gin that we age in Syrah, Grenache, and Tannat barrels, and that's bottled and released at 99.
How? Oh, really? How? What's the color look like on it?
Pink, red. Pinkish, it's beautiful. Yeah. It's
how long do you know? How long is it rested? Do you have any idea?
12 months in.
Oh,
in
good.
Barrel.
So at least.
Yeah, 12 months in barrel picks up a lot of the acidity from the wine barrels, and then after we bottle it, we only really release about 500 six-packs around the country. Same with this apple brandy. So we make a pear brandy, a raspberry brandy, which we bottle unaged, so they're clear spirits. Our reserve apple brandy's actually got a beautiful, picks up a nice color, darker color from we use a little bit of French and American oak, about 3 to 4 years. But what makes this such a spectacular item, it's 15 different varieties of apples that we work with.
Throughout California? Or different
it's mostly off of one farm in Northern California. Yeah, please. And all that fruit is crushed, fermented, and then distilled, and then laid down in a little bit of French and American oak. What's cool about this is we don't add any pear to it. So if you're familiar with Calvados, most Calvadoses have about 15% pear. This is 100% apple from 15 different varietals.
And you guys are... So the wash, you have to get into the trade secrets, which sometimes is a touchy subject, but so do you have to do a lot of filtering with apples? Or you can just put the fruit in there? Do you have to juice them first? Do you just ferment the juice?
I haven't been there when they worked with the apples, but I was told that it's made very similar as to the pear. And when we're making our pear, we use the entire fruit.
That's amazing.
I was there, and it's an amazing day to be at the distillery. You're looking at a sea of pears. Our distillery is 65,000 square foot.
Yeah, it's massive.
It's an old airplane hangar from the Navy base, and it's just gorgeous. But when the pears come, there's just crate after crate after crate of pear, and we just dump all that pear into a crusher, and we move it over to the stainless steel tanks, and then we let it sit there and ferment. And our philosophy in distilling is not to over distill. We like to distill basically once.
Totally agree.
And that keeps all the flavor in there, the aromas,
keeps the oils.
Yeah, you're getting everything that you're working with, so it's it's beautiful.
Yeah, and this is a plate stilled, pot stilled. Do you know?
Well,
you guys have a lot.
We got a little bit of a hybrids on our stills. Yeah, there's a little mix of calm and continuous. Yeah. So they're done in our copper pots. Yeah. But I don't know the exact.
No, it's okay. Yep. It's very rich nose, and I have not had this, so I feel that right now I'm kind of giddy. Get the price. Very rich. I get the whole earthy darkness of the apple up to the lightness and the acidity. And
to me, it drinks a lot like a little bit of a whiskey,
which is totally fine with me.
Yeah, exactly. Great. We also, I don't know if you're familiar, but we've been producing single malt whiskey now for 15 years, and it is our flagship item. Last year, our single malt won Craft Whiskey of the Year from 2 different publications, from Whiskey Advocate and also from Icon of Whiskey. The problem with our single malt, there's just not enough of it. We put 500 six-packs. Yeah, 500 six-packs for around the country. It's just nothing. That sells out at the distillery in a day. Yeah. And then in the markets, that manage it well, it's pretty well gone to our top customers. But if you ever get that, you speak about the aging. So we use malted barley, which gets, distilled. But what makes our single malt so beautiful is all the casks that we work with. Yeah. Each year the cask is a little bit, the final blend's a little bit different.
Oh, it's going to be different, yeah.
But this year, lot 15, the oldest barrel that we chose was 16 and a half years old. Wow. And that barrel previously held a Sauterne. Mm-hmm. The other 15 barrels either held port, sherry, whiskey, or bourbon before. Amazing. And the average age is about 9 years old. And It's lovely. I mean, I was
Is it out yet? You don't have it in your bag.
I don't have it. No,
Son of a bitch.
If you meet me at Roosevelt Room tomorrow, we could have one.
So. I'll meet you wherever to try that.
Got to do it early though. I got to catch a flight tomorrow at 6.
Oh, that's right. So, damn it.
But I'm doing if you're off tomorrow day, I'm doing a seminar down there.
Yeah, that's right. They've got great staff. Justin and Dennis are cool.
Yeah, I ran into the guys today. I don't know what they were doing, if they were following me around, but I
think so. It could be. They're very intellectual guys. They follow.
What's the new place here in town, or the development where the old airport was?
Oh yeah, Mueller.
Yeah, so there's a really cool new shop there that's featuring pastries.
Yeah.
And coffee. Right. The Bribery.
Jody's place.
Awesome spot. And I ran into an old St. George person.
No shit.
Yeah, and who's one of the manager there. So
that's one of the things about Austin, right? Yeah. But let me comment on the brandy real quick. It's a mouthful, right? It's not thin. It's not tight. It's very open, very mealy, which I love, right? Because apples do have this mealiness. It's not too acidic. It's a very lovely expression of the brandy, and I thank you for sharing that.
You're much welcome.
The color's great too. I mean, I feel very lucky to get to sit in this seat, and get to try such fine spirits. It's an amazing thing. And when I think about your journey, when I think about you kind of connecting with St. George, I think, when was that handshake? Can you think of that meeting or that lunch where you're like, oh no, I'm out of Republic, I'm transitioning? There's got to be that meeting, because I'm like, well, how does this transition to you?
Yeah, it was quite a meeting. Guys? So it was a day I'll never forget, and I was coming to the end of what I thought was my career at Republic, and getting a little bit frustrated, and had a conversation with my boss, and it just didn't feel right, and I just was
18 years, right?
Yeah, 18 years, and I just wasn't feeling it, and we got into a conversation that got a little more heated than any conversation I had in 18 years. And
really,
and
why though? Because I
think it was part of me. I just think it, part of my
frustrated.
Yeah, frustrated, and just done with with the distributor world, but. Yeah. Really, with no outlook, and I hadn't been looking. So when you're
like, where do you go though?
Yeah,
from that spot? What's the spot? Divisional VP or something for Republic?
Well, for me, I would have been a division manager, so forth, and it could have happened probably if I stayed around, but it just, the heart wasn't there. And that day, I remember after my meeting, my task for that afternoon was to go out and get about 12 cases of samples, and they were all St. George samples.
Okay.
And I really didn't know too much about St. George. We sold it, but at the time, there was no sales manager for St. George in Florida. So, out of mind, out of sight a little bit.
Yeah.
So I grabbed it, and as I'm heading down to South Beach to drop these samples off, I meet a gentleman named Steve Ciavola, and he is the vice president of sales for St. George. And I said, what are you doing here at South Beach Food and Wine Fest, which was held by sponsored by our competitor, Southern Wine and Spirits.
Right.
And he goes, well, I got a call from this hotel, and they wanted me to come down and, and feature St. George for a night of drinks.
What year are we talking, by the way?
3 years ago.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Okay.
This would have been, Food and Wine Fest is happening right about now. So,
yeah,
just 3 years ago. And I said, you got a few minutes, Steve? And I said, tell me more about your brand. I'm the sales manager here, and I just want to know more about it. And, And we sat down, and he said they're growing. He joined them. He had a career with Remy and
really?
From other Hubline. I mean, he goes back a few years.
Yeah.
Hubline's no longer around. And I said, well, why don't you have anybody in Florida? And he goes, well, we're just not sure, this is the market that we want to grow in, or that's ready for growth yet.
Right.
But if we're open, if we find the right person. And I said, you know what? Let's sit down tomorrow. Do you have an hour for me to sit down? He goes, yeah, sure do. He goes, tonight, why don't you come to the event? Bring your wife and come to the event. I'm sure he was checking me out, See,
you know it.
See if I was dressed right.
Man.
Seeing what my wife looked like, if she could handle herself.
Does he know anything about spirit? All of it, right?
All of it. So we came in, and we had we dressed well into the tees, and, took all my experience that I knew, and just came down, and we hung out.
Did you know you're being scouted?
Oh, yeah, I knew.
So you're like, how was that? All right, I gotta go real quick. So, dressing for the event.
Well,
did you coordinate?
There's a big different world in how you dress when you work for a craft distiller.
Yeah.
And how you work out in the street.
Sure.
Or that you work for a craft distiller and you're going for a business meeting,
right?
At your distiller. There's two different dress codes that you do.
Okay.
One god thing is that we never put ties on anymore. Ties are gone.
For us.
For us. Don't matter if I'm meeting with the president of any of my distillers or distributors.
Doesn't matter. Yeah,
tie. But we will slip a jacket on every now and then.
Sure, jackets are good. They're classy.
Yep.
You could wear a jacket with jeans though. Which is okay.
Which I think I did that night. So, but we hung out. We're on South Beach. We're having a good time, and Steve was working the event, so we didn't get to interact too much. But the next day, I had a meeting set up with him at noon, and it was going to be an hour, and it took 3 hours. And I felt at that time, I said, you know what?
He's interviewing you, isn't he?
This is good if we can get it work, if we can make it work. But the fear of many guys that have been in the industry of the distributor network for that long as I had is that the pay sometimes moving to a supplier job
not so good.
It's not as good. Most of them are, entry level and
right.
But that's not what St. George was looking for. They were looking for a divisional vice president, a senior, somebody with some senior experience that could manage 5 states. So the offer came through. I was sitting in a business meeting, what they call mid-month meetings at the distributor, where you're sitting there for 8 hours and one supplier after another's coming and tasting you on this shit vodka or this mezcal.
Right.
Some, half of them are good, some of them aren't.
Sure, it's a split.
My phone rang. I got up out of the office and went and answered it and headed off to a corner of the warehouse that nobody could talk. And Steve and I talked for about 20 minutes, and he goes, I think we've got a number that can, make you through. And I've said, you know what, I'm not as worried about the number, but, I got to believe in this company.
Yeah.
He goes, well, the first thing, I need you to fly out to San Fran. So 2 days later, I was on a plane, landed in San Fran, hopped on a ferry. You can take a car or a ferry to the distillery. So I just took the ferry over, met Lance Winters, and we talked for a good hour and a half. And got a tour of the distillery, headed back out. And as I was on the ferry from Alameda to San Fran to go back to the city, I got the phone call, and they're like, we want you on board. And I'm like, shit, yeah, I'm coming. And, it was the best decision I've ever made. And I didn't know what I was getting into. I went.
Did you think that's where it was going to go? In your career?
No, I had no clue.
You've had a great stint.
Yep.
In distribution, you've been behind the bar. You're now on the other side of it. That seems like it must be a dream job.
It's the biggest dream job out there, and it's
there's hope, everybody.
Everybody. I mean, just in the last few days, that I've been running around Dallas and Austin. People are like, when are you guys going to hire state people? And I'm like, what? Eventually we're going to grow big enough that that's going to happen. Yeah. I've got a stack of cards that can come through. But, yeah, it's, I think karma. I'm a huge believer in karma.
Me too.
If you do well, and you treat people well, and you take care of your business and your life and your family, good shit happens. And I was in a spot where I needed to move. I'm a passionate person, so if I didn't have the passion any longer, to do what I was doing at the distributor, this just happened to find me. I mean, somebody put me in line with the right day.
It's all aligned.
Oh, it was awesome.
It's amazing. So 3 years now, you say?
3 years. Yeah, 3 years. And it's just, the growth that we're seeing in all our markets is fantastic.
Yeah.
I travel about 60 flights a year.
Jesus, so. Do you like, so today, we talked about it a little bit, but you had a staff training for Backbeat, which is the Mike and Jess, their new place here, which is going to be amazing. 2 multiple floor bar program and stuff. Do you like getting down there and performing?
That's the big thing. Yeah, if you can't tell already, just sit here.
You never were in a band though, were you?
No, not just an air band maybe.
Yeah, but this is the chance, right?
Yeah, when you're doing that, you're the lead singer.
That's right.
When you're in front of everybody, and if you include the people that you're talking to, and you make sure that you're not over talking to them. Mm-hmm. You try to find out quickly if they understand what you're talking about.
What do they want to know?
Yeah, you got to make it. I've sat through so many seminars of people just talking over the heads of everybody. Yeah. And
what's the point of that?
Well, you're not getting anything out of it. If I don't connect with these people, I wasted an hour of my time.
And a trip, maybe.
Yeah, right? And an hour of their time. So that's the biggest part, is being able to connect with people, knowing your product. The one thing, I get asked a lot of times, how many botanicals in Botanivore? And I'll say there's 19. And they're like, well, can you name them? And I'm like, no.
That's a lot.
I don't need to count back.
Does it matter? This is a better question, but
But overall, you're not going to explain 19 botanicals to one of your customers. Right. Tell them Botanivore is full of citrus notes and floral notes. Yeah. Tell them terroir is full of pine notes and mountains and terroir. And leave it at that. Yeah. People, that's sometimes people spend too much time getting geeked out in the world.
Yeah.
Give them a little romance and give them a little history and just a few selling notes, and that's selling.
That's enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then take a little time and connect with that person. But
no, I feel you. Yeah, I did the gin training for them the week before, and what do you say? What do I talk about? Do I talk about my product? Is it just about my product, or is it about what I love about spirits and gin? It's hard to say, right? But
yeah.
It's fun to perform, though. I'll put that way.
The performance is fun. The best days of work in my whole career in sales of spirits is doing dinners. I love doing dinners. When you're up in front of 80 people or a group of 40 people or whatever, I had the opportunity last summer to do Epcot Food and Wine.
Oh, wow.
And you are mic'd up, you're on stage, and you have to speak for 45 minutes. I mean,
that is pressure.
No less, no more.
Yeah.
And in that time, you're making 3 cocktails and you're talking about the spirits. And,
yeah.
At the time, I got family and friends out in the audience, and you want to make everybody proud. But man, as soon as the light came on, it flows.
Yeah,
I had a small plan, but not really. And what's cool is each day was different. I did 2 days in a row, and when you know your product and you love your product and you love what you're doing, it's easy.
So I'm gonna ask, because I think this is important. You guys have many SKUs, but for you, what's the SKU? What's the St. George product you keep going back to that you really, really like?
Well, there's a couple different things. One, I love brown spirits.
Yeah.
So, our single malt is a treat when I get to try it. Mm-hmm. It's a joy when I see it behind a bar. To sip that neat or with 1 ice cube is tremendous. I love our apple brandy that you're drinking right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a huge drinker of gins. Mm-hmm. I appreciate every one that we have, but gin always doesn't agree with me. And not even over drinking, just sometimes, just acidity and stuff.
How many times I've heard someone say, sorry, man, I just can't sample this gin. Gin makes me angry.
Well, if you ask my wife,
it's bollocks. But
if you ask my wife, bourbon makes me angry. But I've got the ability to drink quite a bit of bourbon. But
if you mix the both, perhaps you'd be even out. But anyway, so you're leaning towards brown spirits.
I lean toward brown. But what's the most exciting thing in our bag right now is our new vodkas. We spent 4 years without being able to distill vodka. With the sale of Hangar One, it was a non-compete.
Yeah.
The distillery kept making. We were under contract to make Hangar One for the new ownership for a few years, and then after that was ended, Lance and Dave, from the distillery, they took their time. They wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
But they knew vodka. They had been creating the ultimate high-end, full fruit infusion style vodkas, not flavored vodkas, but full fruit infusions.
Yeah.
So they took their time, and we came out with 3 just outstanding expressions of vodka.
In one of the larger bottles, too, right?
Well, we're in 750s.
No, sorry, not a larger quantity, but we have for this apple brandy, for example, it's a little squattier.
Yeah, they're in our taller bottles.
That's right.
They're in our what we call our liqueur bottles, so forth. Yeah. But there's no rhyme or reason there. But we're making all our vodkas from non-GMO corn.
Very cool.
One of the only mid-sized to large-sized distillers that I know out there, and I could be wrong, but
you're
taking the effort to do something right, and source out non-GMO corn. It's got better flavor. It's got just deeper notes to it.
Yeah.
And then after that, what we're doing with that is just amazing. We make one called California Citrus, where it's an orange-flavored vodka by law, but in reality, it's a distilled spirit made from corn and orange peels. So we source orange peels from a Northern California grower, And after we get the peel, all we're doing is pouring some vodka over the top of it, macerating it for about a week, and then we throw the peels and the spirit into the still, and we redistill it one time.
Just to clarify.
Just
basically.
Yeah. Well, it gives it that second distillation where you're really picking up all the aromas and flavors from the orange peels.
Yeah.
So much so that, when we started making it, it was able to luge. I mean, there was so much oil coming off the still that, if you were adding water to it, it would cloud up just like like our absinthe or like Zambuca out there.
Yeah.
So the guys had to figure out a pretty good way to filter
not
it.
do that.
But our citrus vodka is 80 proof.
Okay.
It's no sugar. There's no artificial anything in there. It's just a distillate of orange peels and corn vodka. I mean, it is the most beautiful expression of a zested orange that you could ever get.
It's amazing.
But there's a bottle that I carry every day, and it's called our green chili vodka.
What kind of chilies?
We take we distill jalapenos along with lime peel and cilantro. So that's the base. So you got your corn vodka and those, jalapenos, lime, cilantro. But that's not enough. So in true St. George style, there's 4 more. So we take habaneros, which we macerate for about a week. We take serranos, and then we take both red sweet peppers and yellow sweet peppers.
Oh man!
And each one of those is done separate, as a sort of like an infusion.
Like when you get
we don't distill those. What we do is we just combine the vodka in the peppers.
Oh, I see.
And let it macerate for about a week.
Yeah.
And then we pull off the liquid off the solids. So you're sitting with 5 different peppered vodkas.
Oh man!
The jalapeno, the habanero, the serranos,
all different floral notes, spice. All of it.
Totally. And when you open this bottle of vodka, everybody goes, I get cilantro, I get lime, I get jalapeno.
Oh, that's amazing.
But what happens is those bell peppers, knock down all the heat. So this bottle is not hot. It's savory.
Yeah.
It makes, by far, the best Bloody Mary ever.
Wow.
We're seeing a huge comeback with gimlets. I had a few accounts today. They're like, we're adding this on with a gimlet, but we're changing it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So, for Valentine's Day, I made... I called it the garden gimlet, where I took our green chili vodka, fresh lime juice, simple syrup, but then I added a few drops of sriracha in there and a little bit of mint and served it. Beautiful pink color, but this is hitting so many notes. It mixes with watermelon juice, lime juice, tomato juice. It's great on the rocks. It's great as a martini.
You can't hear me salivating, can you?
You want? There's one in that bag.
There is one in there? So we're dot. We're going to, I have to try it. I love spicy, love it, but I love the nuanced flavors of different kinds of peppers, which is what you get. You guys are combining different Scoville units of all types of peppers.
And just, it's not easy to make. I mean, vodkas as a whole, straight vodka is pretty easy to make.
Oh, it's easy, yeah.
Flavored vodkas, if you're adding a couple of drops of flavoring, sugar, easy. I worked today in the distillery where I was separating the red peppers away from the infused corn vodka. It's not easy. We don't do it by machinery. We do it by hand. I mean, you're digging with a colander and ripping out those peppers.
Your hand. You've touched.
Oh, yeah, I've touched. There's some of me in there. But when they're doing jalapenos, they're wearing gas masks.
You have to.
You have to, So this vodka is the first vodka that we're seeing in major cocktail bars, mixology bars in New York City and San Francisco that haven't carried a flavored vodka in years or ever. They're bringing this stuff in because they understand that this is just a distilled spirit.
Yeah.
But legally, we're having to call it vodka.
That's amazing. Yeah.
It's truly amazing.
Well, we're going to try. I got to try it after this.
Let's pop it open.
I do want to touch on this last piece. You're a music guy. You been to a lot of shows this past year?
I go every year to a show called Wani Music Fest, and it's in North Florida. And it's in the most amazing spirit. It's one of the happiest spots in the world.
Why is it happy?
Because it's hippies. And it's respectful hippies,
You mean the hippies that have been successful a little bit?
This is successful. Going to concerts nowadays is not an inexpensive venture. I mean,
oh my God, it's so crazy.
You spend thousands of dollars on here. And I have friends from all over. I come from South Carolina, from Georgia, from all over Florida. And my buddy Curtis sort of put this little group together, and he's been there I think 11 years in a row, and I believe they started with 4, 5, 6 people, and staying in this little cool area in the campsite that we do. So this is a festival where you camp for 4 nights, and they play music for 3 and 4 nights and 3 days.
What are some of the acts that you've seen?
Widespread Panic's there.
Yeah, big.
Lettuce shows up.
Sure.
Allman Brothers headed it up for many years.
Really?
Juke's there.
Jesus.
It's all on. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And there's 20,000 people, but that's part of my life where you get to de-stress.
Yeah.
You show up, you put up your campground. We hang with 50 people. We have 50 people in our group.
Is it like you guys camping together, or is it just...
We camp solid, yeah. We got like one area, and it's the middle of the center loop, and we camp. I'd like to say we're roughing it, but it has electricity, so we're all sleeping on some serious air mattresses.
Yeah.
We're having coffee and donuts in the morning, and
ceviche, nice ceviche. Fresh kale salads.
It's amazing at this camp. Nowadays festivals, they've learned, and it's sort of what's happening out in the world of dining and restaurants.
Yeah.
Even the festivals have better food now. They're putting out solar noodles, and there's kale salads, like you say, and good food. But
do we even deserve that as concert?
You got to eat healthy. I'm just hoping somebody shows up with some fresh juice every morning and gets my body back into order.
What's healthier than a chili vodka?
Chili vodka and watermelon juice.
See?
It will revive you just like that. It will.
It will.
And we're going to do it. We do it every year there.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so that happens next month.
Who's headlining this year?
Widespread's there, and there's 40, 50 different bands that'll be there, and one of my favorites, Humphreys McGee, will be there. They're playing 2 nights in a row.
Yeah.
There's 2 stages. There's the big stage, the peach stage, but there's a stage called the mushroom stage.
Well, tell me, Paul, what exactly?
I wonder why it's called the mushroom stage. So Wani's, the whole theme of it is the mushroom.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know who's on them or who's not. But, it's probably good. Every other person or every 9 out of 10 persons walking around with a tie-dye. So it's
let's just assume there's a correlation.
There's a pretty good chance that most people are there. But this is a natural canopy. So there's all these beautiful live oaks.
Amazing.
And it's a natural hill that goes up. And when the bands come on late night, the show, the light show for it is unbelievable. And it's the one time for 4 days that you can rock out from noon till 2 in the morning, get up at 8 in the morning, shake it off, and just do it again. The worst part's the 6-hour drive home, but other than that,
So you and your wife go every year?
My wife, my daughter.
That's so cool. Yeah. No kidding.
I've got a couple adult daughters, and one of them has taken up the hippie lifestyle and the whole lifestyle. She's a chef. So she's got it lucky. She's a chef for a private couple on a yacht.
Yeah.
And currently in Key West right now working. So.
We talk about Key West again. Jesus, man.
Yeah, I'm heading back. I was just there, and I'm going to do a bar takeover at the other side. It's even Key West is getting away from the foofy drinks, and they got some really good bars.
Yeah.
And doing some proper cocktails down there. So early May, we're going to do a little. My wife and I are heading back, and we're going to do a bar takeover at a place. And
that's amazing.
Rock it out.
So I don't want to burden you. But I might call you.
If you want to come on down, we love traveling.
Are you in Key West, Paul? Because I heard it's a killer place.
It could be a little bit of a different interview if you catch me. And if you catch me in Key West,
it'll be completely off the mic. I promise.
One that might not want to go on the air, so.
Or would make even better fodder for the interview.
Yeah, as long as didn't get off to everybody there, so.
Yeah. Well, it's been amazing to get a tier 2 review of the St. George Spirits, what stuff you guys are working on, which we have to try this chili vodka after we chat. This apple brandy is great, rich, deep, it's a polychromatic, so many different flavors on it. And, man, to get here and sit here and chat with you, talk about Mackinac Island, talk about AC/DC. It's been a pleasure, Paul.
Well, thank you so much. Great meeting you.
Likewise,
I've listened to a couple of your other, casts that were out there, and I knew it would just be a comfortable vibe.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm just a dude.
I'm looking here at 6 different guitars.
That's a vintage Yamaha. That's the same one Elliott Smith played.
I'm talking into a vintage Hall & Oates microphone, so hopefully the speakers came around well. But it was a great time. And I
appreciate it.
If I am on Facebook, if people want to follow me, they'll see when I'm in a town and grab me and say hello.
They should want to drink with you.
They should. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul. Well, there we have it. What do you guys think of Paul? Amazingly hospitable guy, very cordial, had an amazing bag full of St. George spirits. It was lovely getting to understand his rise and his kind of movement in this hospitality industry, but also really giving us brilliant insight into the sales strategy, the production strategy, the production methods of all of these wonderful products, whether it be the absinthe, the agricole rum, the apple brandy, the pear brandy, the raspberry brandy, all of these wonderful spirits. It's not really a big surprise that they've built such a wonderful reputation for themselves, and having personalities like Paul in the mix and part of the team doesn't hurt them at all. So thanks everybody for listening to Show to V with Mike G. No matter how many times you think that allergy medicine is going to make your sore throat go away, or how many Halloween movies you're going to watch this season, please keep dancing.